Welcome. Welcome to this session of drugs for congestive heart failure. I'm Dr. Ahmed Nawaz Khan from School of Pharmacy. What is congestive heart failure? Congestive heart failure is a chronic progressive condition that affects the pumping power of our heart muscles. Simply, this is not a heart failure. This congestive heart failure specifically is a stage in which some fluid is built up around the heart and it causes pumping inefficiently. So that's why it is known as the congestive heart failure. It is not simple as a heart failure. It's a very specific because there is some fluid is built up around the heart muscles and it causes the uh, it to pump the blood inefficiently. What fluid I'm talking about? I'm talking about because there is a layer of the thin sacs like structure in the heart which is known as the pericardium, and this pericardium surrounds the heart and protects the function of the heart. So there is a fluid which actually develops, which build up between the layers of this pericardiums. Now we we have the heart, and that heart has the four chambers. You know that the upper half of our heart has two atria and lower half of our heart has two ventricles. So the ventricle pumps blood to our body's organ and tissues, and the arteria receives the blood from the body as it circulates back from the rest of our body. So this is how the ventricles and arteria they works. Now this congestive heart failures actually develops when the ventricles they cannot pump enough blood or blood volume to the body. So finally or ultimately what happens that the blood and other fluids can back up inside the heart or in lungs, abdomen or even lower body portion. This cardio congestive heart failure is a life threatening disease. So what are these common types of the cardiovascular problems? This is one of the very common cardiovascular problem which is the congestive heart failure. This is very predominant and happens in the left sided of the heart. This left sided congestive heart failure is the most common type of the heart failure. Actually, it occurs when the left ventricle does not properly pump blood out to our body. And the condition, when this condition progress, the fluid can build up in our lungs which make breathing very difficult. So there are this left-sided congestive heart failure is of two types: the systolic heart failure and the diastolic heart failure. What is this systolic heart failure? This occurs when the left ventricle fails to contract normally. When it fails to contract normally. So what happens when it fails to contract normally? This reduces the level of force which is available to push the blood into the circulation. Because without this force, the heart cannot pump properly. So that's why this is known as the systolic heart failure. The left ventricle fails to contract normally. What is diastolic failure? It is the diastolic dysfunction. That means that when the muscles in the left ventricle becomes very stiff. On becoming stiff, because it cannot no longer relax. So when the muscles become stiff, they can't get relaxed. The heart cannot quite fill with the blood between the beats. So during the beats, because the blood it pumps, the blood the heart, it pumps the blood, so the heart cannot quit the fill with the fluid. While in there is right side congestive heart failure, there is a right ventricle which has difficult pumping the blood to the lungs. So one is the left sided congestive heart failure and second is the right sided congestive heart failure. This congestive heart failure, it results from many different other health conditions, like directly affect cardiovascular system, which directly affect the cardiovascular system. And this is very important to get the annual checkup, because the congestive heart failure is maybe number of problems, and these problems, they are sometimes symptomatic and sometimes asymptomatic. So we need to take a routine checkup for our heart. So what are the risks which are involved for the cause of which cause the congestive heart failure? These are include the high blood pressure, that is hypertension, also coronary artery disease, and some problem in the valve. So during the hypertension, what happens that when our blood pressure is higher than the normal, this lead to the coronary congestive heart failure. Because the hypertension, what's happening in the hypertension, that it is the narrowing of the arteries, and when there is a narrowing of the arteries, which make it harder to for the blood to flow through them, right? The second is the coronary artery disease. In this, the cholesterol play an important role. That cholesterol and other types of fatty substances, they block the coronary arteries, which are very small arteries that supply blood to the heart. So this causes the arteries to become very narrow, and narrow coronary arteries restrict the blood to flow, which can lead to damage the artery. Now next is, what are the stages of this congestive heart failure? So there are four class of stages of this congestive heart failure. The class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4. What happened in the class 1? In the class 1, the main symptom of the class 1 stage is that there is no symptoms during the typical physical activity, when we do the physical activity, when we do the exercise. And as an outlook, this stage can be easily managed through the just like lifestyle change, heart medication, or some monitoring. The class 2 is, in the class 2, the main symptoms, symptoms are the body is very comfortable at rest, but during the normal physical activity, it causes some fatigue, some palpitation, and also the shortness of breath. So how can we treat it? We can manage through lifestyle change, some heart medication, and careful monitoring. Now the third one is a little complicated, or we can say it's complicated, that the body feels comfortable at rest, but there is a noticeable limitation of the physical activity. So when we do even a very mild exercise, it may cause fatigue. Even a very mild exercise also cause palpitation and shortness of the breath. For this, the treatment is complicated. The fourth stage is that whenever the body is unable to carry on any amount of physical activity, then it is without the symptoms. There is no symptom in the class 4. So just like in the previous one, you can feel a person can feel the fatigue, palpitation, shortness of breath, right? But in the class 4, there are no such symptoms. Now, what is the cure? That we need quality of life. we need some palliative cares, monitoring, and consult to the doctor. So when a person has this congestive heart failure condition, in this the very common symptoms like the fatigue, swelling on the ankles, some feet and legs, some maybe some weight gains, and increased need of urination, especially in the night, and there are some worsened condition also which indicate that the person has a congestive heart failure condition, that is irregular beat. And if there is a chest pain that radiates through the upper body, that means, or a rapid breathing, it is a very severe heart condition. A wheezing sound, uh, also the shortness of breath is very common, and fainting, sometimes the patient get fainted. So in these congestive heart failure, some are very worsened conditions or the symptoms, just like irregular heartbeat and cough, wheezing, and shortness of the breath. And some are severe symptoms, which are like chest pain on the upper body and rapid breathing and fainting. So these are some of the symptoms. Very important thing, that how can we identify the symptoms of the congestive heart failure in infant or the children? Actually, this is very a little difficult to recognize the heart failure in infant and young children. But there are some symptoms which can indicate, which may be a sign of the congestive heart failure, that the child or the infant is on poor feeding. He is avoiding the feed, and he or she is avoiding the feed, and excessive sweating, difficulty in breathing. So these are some of the symptoms which shows that the infant has maybe the problem of CHF, congestive heart failure. Now, how this congestive heart failure is diagnosed, we have already discussed in the previous sessions, that how the congestive heart failure is, these heart disease are diagnosed. So we have different tests for it, and always when somebody visits a doctor recommend these tests for the congestive heart failure condition. So first is the electrocardiogram, which actually record the heart rhythm. Is there any abnormalities in the heart rhythm or not, or whether there is a rapid heartbeat or irregular rhythm, and that tells the overall situation of the heart. Echocardiogram also is use the sound waves basically, which record the heart structure and motion, and that determine that the body have poor blood flow or some muscle damage, or there is some contract abnormality of the muscles. Next is MRI. This takes the picture of the heart, and with both still and moving pictures, and this allows these doctors to see that the heart is damaged or not. Next test is stress test. So this is stress test that shows that how well our heart is performing under different level of stress. So this is one of the also tests which doctors recommend. Next is blood test. It is also to check the abnormal blood cells and infection. So they can check the level of the BNP, which is a hormone that rises the heart failure. This BNP is brain natriuretic peptide. So this is also known as the brain natriuretic peptide test, BNP test. And the last test is cardiac catheterization, that shows the blockage of the coronary artery. So these are some of the diagnostic tests which doctor recommends during the during the diagnosis of the congestive heart failure. Now the next is the classification of the drugs which are used for the congestive heart failure. So here is the chart which shows that there are some positive inotropic drugs, some vasodilators, and some miscellaneous drugs for the chronic failures. So positive inotropic drugs, they include the cardiac glycoside, beta agonist like dobutamine, PD inhibitor, and in the vasodilator nitroprusside, and loop diuretics, ACE inhibitors, and beta blockers like these spironolactones. Now, what is this inotropic? Actually, inotropic receptors are the membrane bound receptors. So, and they are the membrane bound receptor proteins that respond to the ligand binding. How? By opening an ion channel. They open an ion channel and they allow the ions to flow into the cells, that increasing or decreasing the action potential of the cell. So actually, if you remember that the receptors, they are of two types. One is one is the internal receptors which are inside the cells in the cytoplasm. They are also known as the cytoplasmic receptors, and the second is cell surface receptors, just like G coupled protein receptor, enzyme ligand coupled receptor, ion gated receptors. So these are the cell surface receptors. So now, the very important class of these congestive heart failure drugs is the ACE inhibitors, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. So these angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, they open up the narrow blood vessels, to improve the blood flow. So vasodilators are also the one another option if these ACE inhibitors, they are untolerated. So when the ACE inhibitors are untolerated, the doctor recommends the vasodilators. Now examples are benazepil, captopril, enalapril, lisinopril, quinapril, and ramipril. Very important drugs as for the congestive heart failure. So actually these ACE inhibitors, they should not be taken without with the some of the medicine, just like thiazide diuretics, because diuretic also used for the this congestive heart failure. So they cause the adverse reaction, like with the thiazide diuretics, with the NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, aspirin, naproxen. So they cause the adverse effect. The next up is the beta blockers. These beta blockers, they reduce the blood pressure and they slow a rapid heart rhythm. So these are just like atenolol, bisoprolol, and acebutolol, cartilolol, and metoprolol, propranolol. So these are of the drugs which are used as beta blockers for the congestive heart failures. So these also cause some of the adverse reaction with some of the medications, just like there is a drug which is amiodarone. So it is an antiarrhythmic medication. With this antiarrhythmic medication amiodarone, these beta blockers, they increase the cardiovascular effect, which include just like reduce the blood pressure and slow the heart rate. So this is also the beta blockers plus antiarrhythmic medication like amiodarone, they cause some adverse effect by slowing the heart rate and reduce the blood pressure. Also with the antihypertensive medications also, and like amlodipine, it also causes some of the adverse effect. Next is diuretics. So these diuretics, they reduce the body fluid content. That means body fluid, urine content. This CHF, it causes the body to retain more fluid than it should be. So we give the diuretics so that it reduces the body fluid content. Now, what are the drugs as a diuretics? These are the drugs. These are these are classified as thiazide diuretics, loop diuretics, and potassium sparing diuretics. Thiazide diuretics like metolazone, indapamide, and hydrochlorothiazide, very important drug. Loop diuretics, these are the furosemide, torsemide, these are the loop diuretics. They cause kidney to produce more urine actually. So when the urine is produced more, it will, extra fluid will be gone. Potassium sparing diuretics. So these are the like spironolactones. Now in syllabus we have certain drugs for the congestive heart failure. So let's discuss them one by one. So the first drug is digoxin. Actually, several cardiac glycosides have been studied, and these glycosides, just like digitalis, squil, strophanthus, these some glycosides, they are very helpful in the to treat the congestive heart failures. And the most predominant is the digitalis, which are two species very important, digitalis lanata and digitalis purpurea. So these are because these digitalis lanata and digitalis purpurea, they are the richest source of the cardiac glycoside. And on hydrolysis, they yield a glycone and a glycone moiety. This is the structure of the cardiac glycosides. Now, cardiac glycosides, they are of just like the digoxin and digitoxin, and they are obtained from the digitalis lanata, digoxin. Why the other glycoside, which is the digitalis, is digitoxin, is from, we can also obtain from digitalis lanata and purpurea. Now we see the structure of this digoxin. It is the aliphatic heteropolycyclic compound. So this compound, it belongs to a class of organic compounds which are known as the cardionolide glycosides, or cardionolide glycosides and its derivatives. So these compounds, they contain a carbohydrate glycoside which is bounded to the cardionolide moiety. So overall we can say that this is a class of steroid and steroid derivatives. Subclass is steroid lactone, and overall it is a cardionolide, which is the aliphatic heteropolycyclic compound. Now this digoxin is one of the oldest cardiovascular medication which is used today also, and it is a common agent which is used to manage the atrial fibrillation and the symptoms of the heart failure. So this digoxin is used for the treatment of mild and moderate heart failure in adult patient, to increase the myocardial contraction in children having the heart failure condition, and to maintain the ventricular rate in the adult patient or in chronic arterial fibrillation. Basically, this digoxin, it exert a hemodynamic condition. It exerts the electrophysiologic and neurohormonal effect on the cardiovascular system. How it works? This reversibly inhibit the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme, and this inhibition of the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme, it lead to various beneficial effects. So this potassium sodium ATPase enzyme function to maintain the intracellular environment. How? By regulating the entry and exit of sodium, potassium and calcium. It is indirectly. Sodium and potassium is directly and calcium is indirect. So potassium, sodium potassium ATPase is, they are also known as the sodium pump. They are also known as the sodium pump. So this inhibition of the sodium pump by the digoxin increase the intracellular sodium and increase the calcium level in the myocardial cells. So inhibition of the sodium pump by the digoxin, it increases the intracellular sodium and increase the calcium level in the myocardial cells, which ultimately causing the increase the contractile force in the heart. So this is how this digoxin works, or it is the mechanism of action of the digoxin. We should avoid the digoxin with the multivalent ion because it is interacted with the multivalent ion like the calcium, aluminum containing products, because it interferes with the absorption. And also avoid some potassium containing products, because potassium containing products cause the arrhythmias when it given with the digoxin. Or overdosing of the digoxin, it causes the anorexia, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, confusion, some visual disturbances and cardiac arrhythmias. The next drug is the digitoxin. Now in digitoxin, it is very similar to the digoxin. This is an aliphatic heteropolycyclic compound. If you see the class, it is steroid and steroidal derivative. Subclass is steroid lactone. And this drug is also, because it is similar, the cardiac glycoside, so it is a glycoside. The compound belongs to a class of compound which is cardenolides, glycoside and derivatives. Now this is sometimes used in place of digoxin, but it has a longer half-life than the digoxin. So this digitoxin has longer half-life than the digoxin, but the toxic effect also become for the longer last than the digoxin, because if it has the half-life of the digoxin, longer half-life than digoxin, so it will stay in the body for more time. So then for the longer time, so toxic effect also go for the longer time. So it is used for the treatment of the congestive heart, cardiac insufficiency, arrhythmias and some heart failure. Likewise, digoxin work. It also inhibit the sodium potassium ATPase membrane pump, which increase the intracellular sodium and calcium concentration, and increased intracellular concentration of calcium, it promotes the activation of contractile protein like actin and myosin. Toxic effects on overdosing is same as digoxin, that is, it may cause the anorexia, confusion, diarrhea, some cardiac arrhythmia, visual disturbances. Now the next drug is nesiritide. This nesiritide is a peptide analog. Actually, this is derived from the carboxylic because peptides, they are proteins and amino acids. So peptide is a structure of the nesiritide. It's a protein or peptide molecule, and it contains the peptides and amino acids. This is used for treat the decompensated congestive heart failure. This heart failure is of two types: the compensated heart failure and decompensated heart failure. Actually, decompensated heart failure is the one which is based on the strength of the heart, that is how body is responding. This is decompensated, while the compensated heart failure is when the heart failure occurs, the patient do not notice any problem or symptoms and it is very easy to manage. So when it is easy to manage, or there is a very minor signs, or that means cannot be recognized by the patient, so it is known as compensated. And the decompensated, it depends on the body to respond, it is little chronic. So it is chronic than the compensated. So this is used, necessitide is used for the decompensated heart failure. This is the protein or peptide which is having a weight of around 3464 Dalton. This is the weight of this protein or peptide, and this works is for the cardiovascular homeostasis through the negative regulation of the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and also work for the dyspnea. What is dyspnea? Dyspnea is a shortness of the breath and also the hunger, shortness of the breath and air hunger, basically air hunger, and it's a very uncomfortable feeling. So it's also used for the treatment of the dyspnea. Now the next is bosentan. This bosentan, it is the aromatic heteromonocyclic it is a heteropolycyclic compound, and it is from the class of diazines, subclass of pyrimidine and pyrimidine derivatives. So we can say that this compound, it belongs to a class of bipyrimidine. You can see that the bipyrimidine, there are two pyrimidine moieties, bipyrimidine and oligopyrimidines. So these are the organic compound containing two or more pyrimidine rings and directly linked to each other. So pyrimidine is a six-membered ring consisting of four carbons atom to two hydrogens, center at the 1 and 3rd position. Now this bosentan, it is a dual endothelin receptor antagonist. What is endothelin? Endothelin is a neurohormone, and it is basically the receptor where it founds. So endothelin is endothelin A and endothelin B receptor. There are two receptors of endothelin. So this is a neurohormone, and it is the receptor on the endothelium and the vascular smooth muscles. So this bosentan is a dual endothelial receptor, and it is used to treat the pulmonary hypertension by blocking the action of endothelin molecules that otherwise promote the narrowing of the blood. If it is not treated, then it will promote the narrowing of the blood vessels, which lead to the high blood pressure. So that's why this bosentan, it treats the endothelin. This bosentan is metabolized by the liver by cytochrome P450 enzyme, and especially the cytochrome P2CN9 and cytochrome P3A4. And as a metabolite, it produces three metabolites, one of which is RO485033. And this, among these three metabolites, this RO485033 is pharmacologically active, and it also contributes the around some of the activity to the bosentan. Along with the bosentan, it shows some of the activity. Now the next drug is tezosentane. So this is a aromatic heteromonocyclic compound or polycyclic compound, and this compound belongs to a class of the organic compound known as pyridinyl pyrimidines, and because it has containing the pyridinyl pyrimidine skeleton, which consists of a pyridine which is linked, not fused, linked to a pyrimidine by a bond. So if you see that it is a diazine class, and subclasses pyrimidine and pyrimidine derivatives. This Tazobactam is an intravenous endothelin receptor antagonist, and it is actually it was initially developed as a for the vasodilation for the patient with the acute heart failure, and further it is studied that it does not assist in the treatment of dyspnea or prevent the cardiovascular event. So it was investigated for the treatment in the congestive heart failure, liver disease, and some heart disease. It also acts on the endothelin 1 A and B receptor, endothelin A and B receptors. So this is all for the drugs which are for the congestive heart failure. Thank you.